Hey, Epic family, Robin Weimer here, your lead worship pastor. And man, what I want to do is I want to make you aware of 2 ways that you can stay connected in this time through worship. So every Monday and Thursday at 12:30, we're going to be having a live time of prayer and worship on Facebook Live. So I really want to encourage you, man, join me for that. We get to pray together, we get to worship together, and we get to have a lot of connection and just interaction. It's a lot of fun. Also, on Wednesdays, we are posting a Worship Wednesday video. It's where I just give a short devotional and play a song, and man, it just gives you some encouragement for the day and fixes your eyes on Jesus. Man, our hope through this and our prayer is that you would experience God's presence through these things, and that also you'd be able to express your love to Him. And then ultimately, we invite you to share these things on your platform so we can expand the kingdom of God and spread the message of hope. Join us. We love you guys. We'll see you soon. Hey, Epic family, Robin Weimer here, your lead worship pastor. And man, what I want to do is I want to make you aware of 2 ways that you can stay connected in this time through worship. So every Monday and Thursday at 12:30, we're going to be having a live time of prayer and worship on Facebook Live. So I really want to encourage you, man, join me for that. We get to pray together, we get to worship together, and we get to have a lot of connection and just interaction. It's a lot of fun. Also, on Wednesdays, we are posting a Worship Wednesday video. It's where I just give a short devotional and play a song, and man, it just gives you some encouragement for the day and fixes your eyes on Jesus. Man, our hope through this and our prayer is that you would experience God's presence through these things, and that also you'd be able to express your love to Him. And then ultimately, we invite you to share these things on your platform so we can expand the kingdom of God and spread the message of hope. Join us. We love you guys. We'll see you soon. Hey, Epic family, Robin Weimer here, your lead worship pastor. And man, what I want to do is I want to make you aware of 2 ways that you can stay connected in this time through worship. So every Monday and Thursday at 12:30, we're going to be having a live time of prayer and worship on Facebook Live. So I really want to encourage you, man, join me for that. We get to pray together, we get to worship together, and we get to have a lot of connection and just interaction. It's a lot of fun. Also, on Wednesdays, we are posting a Worship Wednesday video. It's where I just give a short devotional and play a song, and man, it just gives you some encouragement for the day and fixes your eyes on Jesus. Man, our hope through this and our prayer is that you would experience God's presence through these things, and that also you'd be able to express your love to Him. And then ultimately, we invite you to share these things on your platform so we can expand the kingdom of God and spread the message of hope. Join us. We love you guys. We'll see you soon. Hey, Epic family, Robin Weimer here, your lead worship pastor. And man, what I want to do is I want to make you aware of 2 ways that you can stay connected in this time through worship. So every Monday and Thursday at 12:30, we're going to be having a live time of prayer and worship on Facebook Live. So I really want to encourage you, man, join me for that. We get to pray together, we get to worship together, and we get to have a lot of connection and just interaction. It's a lot of fun. Also, on Wednesdays, we are posting a Worship Wednesday video. It's where I just give a short devotional and play a song, and man, it just gives you some encouragement for the day and fixes your eyes on Jesus. Man, our hope through this and our prayer is that you would experience God's presence through these things, and that also you'd be able to express your love to Him. And then ultimately, we invite you to share these things on your platform so we can expand the kingdom of God and spread the message of hope. Join us. We love you guys. We'll see you soon. Hey, Epic family, Robin Weimer here, your lead worship pastor. And man, what I want to do is I want to make you aware of 2 ways that you can stay connected in this time through worship. So every Monday and Thursday at 12:30, we're going to be having a live time of prayer and worship on Facebook Live. So I really want to encourage you, man, join me for that. We get to pray together, we get to worship together, and we get to have a lot of connection and just interaction. It's a lot of fun. Also, on Wednesdays, we are posting a Worship Wednesday video. It's where I just give a short devotional and play a song, and man, it just gives you some encouragement for the day and fixes your eyes on Jesus. Man, our hope through this and our prayer is that you would experience God's presence through these things, and that also you'd be able to express your love to Him. And then ultimately, we invite you to share these things on your platform so we can expand the kingdom of God and spread the message of hope. Join us. We love you guys. We'll see you soon.
Epic Life family, Pastor Brent here. We are so glad you have chosen to worship with us today. If this is your first time worshiping with us, we just want to say on behalf of the Epic Life family, welcome home. You belong here. And if you would do us a huge favor and just type the word connect in the comment section, someone from our staff will reach out to you this week. And if you live here locally, we got great news. We would love the privilege to swing by your house and drop off an Epic Life t-shirt just for you. Also, if you're new here, we want to let you know that we have an Epic Life app. So no matter what kind of phone you have, you get on your app store, you can just type in the word Epic Life NB and you can download that app. In that app, you'll find ways to look at past messages, read our Bible reading plan, pray for one another, and then also give online. Also, we recognize this is a challenging time, to say the least. So if you or someone you know has been affected negatively by the COVID-19 crisis, we want to know. They don't even have to go to our church. But what we want to do is, God has been so good to us financially. If there's somehow you have a need or you know someone that has a need, we want to be able to step in and meet that need. And the way you can let us know that is by emailing us at help@epiclifenb.com. That's help@epiclifenb.com. Once again, I just want to say we are so glad you chose to worship with us. We hope it is an encouragement for your soul. We love you. God bless.
Good morning, church. Come on, let's stand together. Every chain, and every chain will break as broken hearts declare His praise. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Sing! Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. Every knee will bow before Him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sin of the world. stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord? Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord Almighty? No one. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battle. Every knee will bow before Him. Yes! Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains. Every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Yes, every knee will bow before Him. Oh, I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. Man's empty praise, treasures of faith are never enough. Then you came along, put me back together. Every desire you satisfy here in your love. Tell him there's nothing, oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. Oh, I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley. And there's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. No, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. I've tried all the world has to offer me. Still, there's nothing better than you.
We love you. Thank you that you are the only one that satisfies. Not man's empty praise. Not anything can satisfy us other than you, Lord Jesus. We love you. We thank you. Would you speak to us now in Jesus' name? Amen.
Well, amen. I just was moved to come up here today and just to say good morning. And man, we're so glad you've chosen to worship with us. Just want to let you know a couple things. We have just, for the first time ever, today tried something new. We've just started an Epic Littles website and an Epic Kids on Facebook. And so Miss Jenna, this started off a new series today on the armor of God. So if you're a parent of little kids or elementary kids, K through 5th, we would encourage you to watch that video with your family sometime with your kids today. It'd be a lot of fun. But I also just wanted to come up because I personally just wanted to say to you, thank you so much for your generosity. Because of your faithfulness to give, God has been allowing us to step out and step into families and meet needs. And we're going to continue to do this. And also, I just want to say, if you know of someone that has been affected negatively financially, if you would let us know, maybe you've been laid off, or maybe you're just been furloughed and you need some help, man, we would love just to even bring by a gift card to a grocery store. Anything that we can do, but if we don't know, we can't help you. So if you could just let us know at help@epiclifenb, that would be great. 2 ways that you can give and continue to give. Either you can give online at epiclifenb.com, or you can give on our app. So once again, thanks. Hey, we love you. Excited to worship with you today as we continue in our series, Dangerous Prayers, Week 3. But before we do that, watch this quick video. Well, good morning. Come on. Hope you're having a great day. Hope you are having, I've had some coffee. Because of all of my allergies and stuff, I try to hold off on the coffee now but I will definitely be having a cup as soon as this is over. But man, I'm so glad you are worshiping with us. If this is your first time, we just want to say on behalf of all the Epic Life family, welcome home. You belong here. And I just would simply ask, as I said in the welcome video, if you just do us a little favor and just type the word connect in the comment section, that's a great way for us, someone on our staff, to connect with you. And if you live here locally, we would love to drop off on your doorstep an Epic Life t-shirt. As I said this morning, we're in week 3 of our series, Dangerous Prayers. So if you haven't watched one of the first 2 weeks, I would encourage you at some point to go back and watch them so that you can catch up. But don't fear if you haven't watched. It's not like you're going to be lost. But 3 weeks ago when we kicked things off, we did so by acknowledging the fact that all of us are walking through a season of life that we have never experienced, nor have we ever seen anything like it. And because of this, it's caused me to, hopefully us, but the Lord has definitely caused me as your pastor to ask this question regarding us as a church. And that question would be this: will we allow this difficult season to be a time of refinement, or will we allow this difficult season to be a time of ruin? All of us have a choice in the matter. We have a choice to either allow this to be a time of refining in our lives, or we can allow it to be a time of ruin. And the way we believe that it can be a time of refinement is by learning to pray some dangerous prayers. Not dangerous and they're going to hurt you or tie your arms behind your back and kidnap you, but dangerous in the fact that they are going to stretch you and cause you to do some serious self-reflection. And last week we began praying this first dangerous prayer that we said simply, Lord, search me. We looked at this prayer, this vulnerable, this transparent, this incredibly brave prayer that David prayed. And at the end we said that David simply did not pray this prayer for information, but rather he prayed it for transformation. And that's what we're praying for you and for ourselves. And this week, we're going to ask God to help us pray another prayer. So get ready. We're going to ask God to break us. Lord, would you break me? And I know what you're thinking already. Really? Seriously, Brent? I mean, I haven't even figured out how to play Lord, search me. Like, I'm still struggling with that, of all the stuff that is welled up in my soul and in my heart. And now you're wanting to ask God to break me? I think not. But I would say, absolutely, that's what God wants. Despite how crazy that may seem, I believe that it is in the breaking that God does his most beautiful and best work in our lives. When I was in college, like many of you, I had a college job. I worked at a place called Lifeway Christian Bookstore. And while I was working there was a guy by the name of Bruce Wilkinson that wrote this book called The Prayer of Jabez. Maybe you have it, maybe you don't. I can tell you this. It was like we were selling crack rock. I mean, it was like flying off the shelves. I was like, this is crazy. I've never seen any more books in my life sell. We would get so many in, we didn't know what to do with them, so we had to build these these designs on the floor and just stack them. And by the end of the month, they would all be gone. Everyone was loving this book because it was about this obscure prayer found in 1 Chronicles by a man named Jabez. And when he prayed, he said this, Jabez called on the Lord of Israel, saying, oh, if only you would bring good to me and give me more land. If only your hand might be with me and you would keep me from being hurt. And God gave him what he asked for. Now, I just want to say to you, there's nothing wrong with this prayer. In fact, it's a good prayer. That's why it's included in Scripture. It's an honorable prayer. In fact, I would just say there's nothing wrong with praying for God's protection or for God to bless us. I mean, who doesn't want God to bless them? Who doesn't want God to protect them? I know I do. But here's what I want us to consider. I wonder if the only thing that you and I are praying for is for God to bless us and protect us, if we are basically saying this to God, God, I don't want to grow. God, I don't want to get stronger. God, I don't want to know how I can trust you more. I mean, think about it this way. I know a lot of you work out. And here's what I would say. What happens when you work out? Well, you tear your muscles. That's why you're sore afterwards. You see, when we lift out weight, hopefully what you're experiencing is tension. If you're not experiencing tension when you're lifting weights, can I just say, bro, it's time to get off the training bar and pick up some real weight, because you should be experiencing tension. That is the whole point of lifting weights. You see, it is in the resistance where growth comes. It is in the tearing down of muscle mass that allows it to grow. You cannot grow muscle mass without breaking it down. And in the same way, you cannot grow spiritually. You cannot grow spiritually without the same kind of tension and breaking in your life taking place. In fact, James, the brother of Jesus, absolutely knew this. That's why he writes what he writes in James chapter 1, verse 2, where he says, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith will develop perseverance. And perseverance must finish its work. Why? So that you would be mature and complete, not lacking anything. This is one of my favorite verses in Scripture. Why? Because no one's looking to sign up for trials, but James tells us that trials develop perseverance. Perseverance has to finish its work, but when it does, it is complete and mature, and you are lacking nothing. What James is telling us is that when you and I only pray for protection, we are robbing ourselves of spiritual maturity. Do you realize that? Like if you're praying, like if you're only praying, God, keep me safe, keep me from harm, keep me from experiencing any kind of tension, what you might as well be praying is, God, I want to be an infant Christian my entire life. But when you press forward through trials, what happens? You develop perseverance, you create resolve, you create character. Scripture says that character, that perseverance matures, and what happens is that you become mature and complete, not lacking for anything. The tension that you and I live with is this. You do not like to go through pain. Neither do I. None of us like that. Why? Because it's painful. There's a reason it's called pain, and there's a reason there's a word called comfort. And what most of us like is comfort. I mean, the truth of us, most of us would just say, I'm fine, Brent. I'm just going to take the detour and bypass Trials Avenue. That's where we live our lives. But as I have wrestled with this message more than any other message maybe I have preached here as your pastor, all week long I've asked myself this question. It should be on your screen. What are we losing? What are we losing by playing it safe and clinging to what is comfortable? By clinging to comfort. What are we losing? What are we losing by playing it safe and clinging to what is to comfort in our lives? To quote the great Jim Collins, he would say that good is the enemy to great. So often you and I cling to what is good, or really maybe not what's good, but what simply feels comfortable. But in doing so, here's what I believe. We miss out on God's best. I love, you see Abraham in Genesis chapter 12. It says that God came to Abraham and told him to go. What he ultimately did is he took Abraham where his father was setting out to go. But it says that his father, when he came to where they were living, he saw that it was good and they settled there. How many of us in life get to good and just settle and never experience great? But God doesn't want you just to experience good. He wants you to experience His epic, abundant life that He's called you to. I know this to be true because I've seen it play out in so many families and individuals over the course of my life doing ministry. But I also know because I've experienced it in a very personal way. Some of what I'm going to share today, I've shared before, but some of you, it's going to be very new because you just are joining us. But in April of 2017, God made it clear to me and my family that my time at the ministry that I loved and had served at and had the joy and privilege of serving high school students for 10 years had come to an end. Now, I'd be lying to you if I said I was happy about this revelation that God had brought in my life. I mean, why would I be happy? I loved what I was doing, absolutely loved it. I loved the people and the students and the leaders that I was serving every week. God was doing incredible things in our ministry. It was insane what we were seeing God do. And my family and my kids, my wife, all were happy. Everyone loved the season of life we were in. But despite all of this, what God was showing me was that I was on cruise control. That I was just cruising along. And there was time for a change. And even though I was 100% sure God was calling me to do this, I was absolutely terrified at what I felt the Lord calling me to do. And what was that? To step out of a job, without having a clue of what was in the future. But what I can tell you is that was the first step of many of a new season of life that would become one of the most challenging and stretching, exciting seasons in my entire life. I mean, it was absolutely filled with excitement and wonder, but it was also filled with tremendous pain and crushing. It was painful because God had a lot of work to do in my life and in my heart. And what I can tell you is that in the crushing, that in the pressing, what God was doing is he was making new wine. And I can say without a doubt, I would not be the man of God that I am today without that season in my life. In fact, I'll never forget the first day of orientation when I went to Pine Lake and was with my boss and now mentor and dear friend, Chuck Angel. Chuck looked at me and said, Brent, I have 10 and a half months to turn you into a senior pastor. This is not going to be pretty. Because what served you well as a student pastor is going to crucify you as a senior leader. So just hold on. During this residency, Brent, I'm not your friend. I'm your boss. And I have one goal, and that is to mold you and shape you as I believe God is leading me into the man of God God is calling to plant a church. And I can tell you, just those words saying that, still this week made me fidget as I recognized that no one had ever spoke truer words to me than that. And what God did is God used Chuck to whip my tail into shape. But specifically during those 10 and a half months, there were 2 instances where God brought me to my knees and completely broke me. In those moments, I cried out to God. In those moments, I was scared. Both times I was scared. I felt like a complete failure. I felt like my world was caving in around me. I felt completely powerless to do anything about my circumstances. And both times I cried out to God. And I can tell you, both times God showed up in the most incredible and real way possible. The first was I was asking God to do something new in me. I went from being the expert in my field to not knowing squat, and I was trying to ask God, would you do something to me? And everything I kept trying to present to people, man, it just didn't seem like it was me. It was from my heart. And I just had 2 guys look at me and says, I just feel like it's kind of phony, Brent. I just don't feel like you're there yet. And I was just so angry and hurt. And I just remember that evening at church going down, maybe you've heard me say this before, and I just wept and knelt at the altar saying, God, I know you've called me to New Braunfels. I know you've called me to a people that I love and a city I desperately love, but I am completely and utterly lost and feel like a failure and have no clue what I'm doing. I need you to speak life into me. And I can tell you the next morning, God woke me up and gave me a word. And by lunchtime, that word became a phrase and became a sentence and ultimately became the vision of our church, which was to see Christ's followers transforming their everyday places into sacred spaces where people can connect to Christ. That was birthed out of one of the most vulnerable moments in ministry for me. But the real crushing and breaking came one morning when Chuck called me in his office. And he talked to me. And that morning, I had to come face to face with the crippling reality that my desire for people to like me, and more importantly, my desire to win the approval of those above me or in authority above me, was absolutely destroying my life. It was eating me alive. I was exhausted. I could never turn my brain off. At times, I was depressed and wanted to sleep. And consequently, I was falling back into old habits like oversleeping and showing up late to the office. That wasn't until Chuck called me in his office and had one of the most brutally honest and firm conversations that anyone had ever had with me in my entire life. Just thinking about this conversation, it still makes me feel anxious. But as difficult as it was to hear what Chuck had to say, I will forever be grateful that he loved me enough to speak that which was going to break me into my life. And as I left his office that morning, I went to my cubicle, and I just sat. Got my Bible out and opened to John chapter 5, which was our reading plan for the day. And in John chapter 5, we're introduced to a man that had been paralyzed for 38 years. But that morning when I got to verse 6, no longer did I feel God was speaking to a man who was paralyzed for 38 years. I felt like God had just turned his attention to me and looked at me and asked me the very same thing he asked that man. He said, "Do you want to be well?" To which I began to just weep and say, "God, yes, you know I do. I hate living like this." And in that moment, what I began to experience was the grace of God, the mercy of God, and the unconditional love of the Father in a way possibly I've never experienced in my life. And if you're wondering why in the world I would share that with you, I would share it simply with you because in my being transparent and vulnerable about my own struggles, maybe it would give you the courage and the freedom to feel like you don't have to act like you have it all together. You see, the truth is, the biggest obstacle to spiritual growth for most of us is our pride. It's our pride. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the biggest hurdle for all of us to grow spiritually is what? It's our pride. We don't want to admit that we're broken. We don't want to admit that we're wrong. We don't want to admit that we're jacked up. Why? I can't admit that I got issues. I'm a leader. I'm a pastor. I'm a teacher. I'm a lawyer. I'm a doctor. I'm a father. I'm a husband. Whatever you are, we can all make an excuse. But that excuse will never get us anywhere. And 9 times out of 10, that excuse is rooted in pride. No one likes to admit where they need refinement. But what I have discovered the hard way is what I'm hoping you will discover too, not the hard way, is that God does His best work when He breaks us. And what I want us to get to the point is where we begin to ask God to break us, not that God has to break us of what we are unwilling and unable to see in our own lives. And one individual that we clearly see that gives me hope that learned the hard way was Peter. What you need to know about Peter is Peter was oftentimes the guy who stuck his foot in his mouth. And he often thought way too highly of himself than he should have. I mean, I know that's not the struggle for any of you out there today. But Luke tells us one night that on the night that Jesus shared in the Last Supper with them, that he specifically had a conversation, and he told Peter that Satan had asked to sift him like wheat. Just listen to this interaction in Luke 22. He says, "Simon, Simon," Satan asked, "Satan has asked to sift all of you as wheat. But I have prayed for you, Simon, that your faith may not fail, and that when you have turned back, strengthen your brothers." But he replied, "Lord, I am ready to go with you to prison and to death." And Jesus answered this prideful comment. Hey, I'm ready to go to death. I'm ready to go to prison. I'm all in. Jesus answered this comment with this: "I tell you, Peter, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. 3 times you will deny that you know me." Talking about sucking the air out of the room. And so what we see here is that Peter is telling Jesus that he's his ride or die, that he is all in, that he's not going anywhere, that he's ready to go to prison or to die. And Jesus simply looks at Peter and says, "No, you're not. No, you're not. In fact, not only are you going to abandon me, you're going to deny even knowing me 3 times. And that's exactly what happened. Luke 22:60 says, where Peter replied, "Man, I don't even know what you're talking about." Just as he was speaking, the rooster crowed. And the Lord turned and looked straight at Peter. I mean, can you imagine can you imagine Jesus looking at you in your worst moment? That moment when you dropped the ball and you did something you thought no one was looking. Jesus looked him straight in the eyes. And then Peter remembered the word the Lord had spoken to him. Before the rooster crows today, you'll disown me 3 times. And he went outside and he wept bitterly. In that moment, Peter hit his breaking point. In that moment, God broke the pride of this incredible follower of Jesus. In that moment, he hit absolute rock bottom. And what he realized in that moment is that what he valued most was not Jesus, but his own life. And as a result, Scripture tells us that he wept bitterly. But if you hear anything I say today, do not miss this. Because what I do not want you to miss this morning is simply this. Is what comes after the breaking with Jesus. You see, the enemy wants to break us and destroy us. But no, when Jesus breaks us, after the breaking, Jesus always offers healing. Come on, someone today needs to hear that. You feel broken. Maybe God's shown you something that needs to be worked and refined. You need to realize He is not shame. If you feel shame, if you feel condemnation, if you feel terrible voices in your head telling you that you're just a piece of work, let me just tell you something. That is not from the Lord. But if you feel broken and you feel someone tugging at your heart that there's a better way, that would be Jesus. Because here's what Jesus does. He comes to us in our brokenness, and He always offers healing. We clearly see this with Jesus, because not only after the resurrection did Jesus show Himself to all the disciples, but what does He do? He shows up on the banks of the shore where John and Peter had been out all night fishing. And when they see Him, He says, hey, come and eat with me. Bring some of your fish. I'm going to cook you breakfast. This, to me, is absolutely incredible. The Son of God, the Christ, the living God, the resurrected Jesus. What is He doing? Still humbling Himself, making breakfast for the very people who abandoned Him. Are you kidding me? The very people that turned their back on Him and walked away, that did not even know Him. The Son of the universe, the one that could speak and make stars appear, who was abandoned, who was nailed to a tree, now resurrected, stands on the shore. What is He doing? Serving His followers that have absolutely left Him high and dry. Breakfast. Why? Because that is the God we love and we serve. And if there was anyone who needed to feel the love of God in that moment, it was Peter. But just because Jesus loved Peter, just because He's forgiven him, does not mean that He's not going to be firm with him. I just thought how much I appreciated reading this, how much I appreciated Chuck Angel this week. That he loved me enough to be firm. And that's exactly what we see in Jesus. You see, after Jesus shared a meal with him, what does He do? He calls Peter out. He tells him, hey, He asks him 3 questions. Do you love me? 3 times. Why? 1 time for each time that Peter has denied Him. He's not being hateful. He's being firm. He's being loving. Listen to this. On the 3rd time He said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Do you love me? Peter was hurt because Jesus had asked him a 3rd time, do you love me? But listen to his response. He said, yes, Lord. He goes, Lord, you know all things. You know everything. What is he acknowledging? That He is the Christ, the Son of the living God. He says, you know that I love you. And then Jesus says, feed my sheep. And then verse 18 is so powerful. It says, very truly I tell you, When you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will have your hand stretched out, and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go. And Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death in which Peter would glorify God. But then my favorite thing in all this whole passage is what he says next. And then he said to him, "Follow me." Now there are just a few things I don't want you to miss here. The first is that restoration is often painful, to say the least. You know, like when you're a kid, like you do something bad, you just want I just want to be ungrounded. There not be any consequences. It's like, woo, it's fun, it's happy. It's like, but no, like real hurt, real forgiveness, real redemption, there has to be restoration. And it's often painful. Jesus didn't coddle Peter. He brought him face to face with the reality. Notice, he asked him how many times? 3 times. That wasn't an accident. That was on purpose. And the 3rd time, we're told, it deeply hurt Peter. But reading this, it made me think of a quote that I read this week by A.W. Tozer. It says, "It is doubtful whether God can bless a man greatly until he has hurt him deeply." It is doubtful that God can bless a man greatly unless he has first hurt him deeply. I mean, that just sounds kind of cruel. But it's true. But it's not cruel in that Jesus is not cruel and hateful like the enemy. Jesus isn't trying to shame Peter. What Jesus is doing is the same thing he does when he breaks you and when he breaks me. He is bringing light, shedding light, and drawing attention to what Peter feared the most. But not only was he shedding light on the very thing that caused Peter to deny Jesus, that being he feared for his life. Look what he tells Peter. The very thing that you fear is unavoidable. I mean, come on, is that not scary? He's like, bro, the very thing you fear is losing your life. Guess what? It's going to happen. When you were a kid, you dressed yourself. But there's a day coming, someone else is going to dress you. And they're going to stretch out your hands. What is he talking about? He's foretelling that Peter himself will be crucified. But what I don't want you to miss, please don't miss this, lock in, is what he says last. He says, "Follow me." Follow me. And in that moment, Jesus extended the same invitation to Peter that he did on the first day he met him. Is that not, I don't know anything more incredible than that. Despite the fact that Peter had not only abandoned him, but had denied him 3 times. Think about that. How incredible is that? What would you do? Someone says, "Man, I don't even know you. What are you talking about?" Man, is that how you would want? Hey, follow me. It's all good. Yeah, what does Peter say? What does Jesus do? In saying, "Follow me," what Jesus was doing, he's saying, the invitation to follow me, despite all your mess, is still on the table. What Peter discovered in that moment is that even though he had given up on himself, how do we know that? What has he done? What does Jesus find him doing? Fishing. He has gone back to his former way of life. But Jesus shows up in his shame, in his defeat, in his retreat, and what does he do? Cooks him breakfast. He restores him. And then he says, "Follow me. You still have a spot on my team." See, when Jesus spoke those words, "Follow me," Peter was never the same. He was never the same. Those 2 words not only healed Peter's heart, but they created a resolve within him that made him willing to be to go the distance, to say it created a resolve in him that would not even be shaken at the possibility of death. And we know this. Why? Because Peter was murdered. He was martyred for his faith. He was not shaken. He would never be back down again. And we clearly see that in the book of Acts. In Acts chapter 4, we see that Peter and John are both arrested by the Sanhedrin Council. And after they were arrested, they were commanded, hey, you cannot preach the gospel anymore. And listen to what they said in verse 19 of chapter 4. But Peter and John replied, which is right in God's eyes, to listen to you or to him? You be the judge. As for us, we cannot stop speaking, or we cannot help speaking about what we have seen and heard. When I read this verse, this is what I immediately think of. James chapter 1, verse 2. Why? Because what we see here is that Peter and John are both now completely mature and complete, and they are lacking for nothing. They are no longer the cowards on the run. They are like, you do what you want to do. But we're not stopped. We cannot help but to preach what we have seen and what we have heard. And I don't know about you, but I know for me, this is what I want for my life. I want for my life that I stand up for what matters. That I build my life around the promises of God and the gospel. At the end of the day, when I lay my head down on the pillow, that I can say, man, I'm mature and complete, and I'm not lacking anything. Not in a prideful way to say I've got it all figured out. Trust me, I'm a work in progress. But what I can honestly say is I've never had more joy and never been happier than I am right now in the season of ministry that I am. And I've never felt more equipped to do what God's called me. Do I still struggle with what people think about me? Absolutely. Anyone who knows me, my buddy Mike Doucette's watching right now going, yes, he does. It will always be something I probably struggle with. But I can tell you this, and I'm absolutely convinced of this. I absolutely care way more, far more, what Jesus thinks about me than what anyone thinks about me, period, anymore. I mean, I want you to like me, but at the end of the day, that's not what's driving my life. And it's not what's driving the vision of this church. God knew that. God had to birth something new to me that is like, hey, that I would be willing to say, when we came back to New Braunfels, Texas, you could not talk me off a ledge. There was no one. Take all the support away, take everything away. You just give me, Ebby, and our living room. If that's all we had, we were going to start this church. Why? Because God birthed something in us that was undeniable. And He had done some breaking in my life and our family's life, and then done healing that was created a resolve that had left us mature and complete, not lacking for anything. And the gates of hell would not stand against what God had called us to do. And it had nothing to do with who we are, but everything to do with who we were resting and putting our trust in. And what I simply want to say to you is, what does God need to break in your life? Because here's what I know. I'm not sitting where I am today apart from the breaking. Like, you don't get to bypass that. And what I'm praying that you would discover is this: breakthrough comes when we finally decide to let go of that which is holding you back. Breakthrough comes when you let go of that thing that you think you can't let go of. That job, that maybe relationship, that vice, that addiction, that sense of security, whatever it is, the approval of man. Whatever it is that you feel holding you back, I'm telling you, if you ask God to break you of it, what you will experience is that breakthrough comes absolutely when we let go of what is holding us back. So can I ask you, would you ask God simply to give you the courage to say, God, would you break me of the very things that are holding me back so that I could experience the abundant and epic life that you came to offer me? Would you pray with me? God, we love you so much.
Lord, we thank you for what you've done on the cross. God, we recognize that you did not come to this earth to leave us slaves to fear and slaves to vices of this world. But God, as we're about to sing, that God, that in the pressing, that in the crushing, God, you're making new wine. Lord, I know there are people watching right now, and they just feel like they are in the press. They're like, man, I have been in the wine press way too long. And I'm just telling you, hang on, lean in. God is making you mature and complete, and you are going to lack nothing. And so, God, would you just release new wine in all of us? God, we would let go of the very things that are holding us back. And that in the crushing and the pressing, God, you would turn graves into gardens. Turn dry bones into armies of followers. Helping us trust that, God, you have turned seas into highways. God, that is the God we serve. It is the God I serve. It is the God that I've experienced time and time again. And I am claiming in the name of Jesus, God, that you would do exceedingly beyond anything we could ever ask or imagine. And I just want to say to you, if you're watching online and you just feel broken, God loves you. He doesn't want to leave you in your brokenness. He wants to step into your mess like he did in that cubicle with me that day. And he wants to say, not to a paralytic, not to me, he wants to say to you, do you want to be well? And I am praying that you say yes, Jesus. If you've never given your life to Christ, all you have to simply say is, God, I confess that I'm a sinner. God, would you come into my life? I need you. Save me. That's something you want to talk about, something you want to do. I'm just going to ask that you just simply do me a favor. Take out your phone, text the word commit to 830-214-3661. I know that might seem a little weird. People have done it multiple times. We're not in a building. It's a way for us to connect. We want to celebrate with you. But just text the word commit to 830-214-3661. If you've been a follower of Jesus and you're like, man, Brent, recently God's been wanting me to be baptized. Man, if you just would text me as well to that number, you can just text baptized or whatever you want. Say, hey, would you call me? Whatever God's doing, would we have the courage and the freedom to respond to his calling? God, would you break us? And as a result, Lord, would you make beautiful wine? We love you. Amen.
In the crushing, in the pressing, you are making new wine. In the soil I now surrender, for you are breaking new ground. So I yield to you into your careful hand. When I trust you, I don't need to understand. God, make me your vessel. Make me an offering. Make me whatever you want me to be. I came here with nothing, but all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. In the crushing, in the pressing, you are making new wine. In the soil I now surrender. Oh, you are breaking new ground. Oh, yes, you are breaking new ground. So make me your vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. God, I came here with nothing but all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Yes, Lord. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. 'Cause where there is new wine, there is new power. And where there's new freedom, the kingdom is here. I lay down my old flames to carry your new fire today. Where there is new wine, there is new power. And where there's new freedom, the kingdom is here. I lay down my old flames to carry your new fire today. So make me your vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. God, I came here with nothing but all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Yes, Jesus, bring new wine out of me. So make me your vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. God, I came here with nothing but all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Sing it again. Oh, make me your vessel, our prayer. Make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. Oh God, I came here with nothing but all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Yes, Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Bring it out, Lord. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Come on, ask him. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. want me to be. Oh God, I came here with nothing but all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me.
Amen. Hey, hopefully you would say today's just been a great day of worship. Man, thank you guys so much for leading us so well. Man, I just want to say one last time to you, man, God loves you. And I just hope if you've heard anything Him say to you today, just follow me. Next week, I hope you can join us as we're in the last week of our Dangerous Prayer series. We're going to be talking about Lord, send me. Also, I want to let you know if you're a student, 6th grade through 12th grade, I want to remind you, Young and Epic meets tonight for their Zoom calls and FaceTime calls, so jump in that. If you're not a part of a life group, I would encourage you to message us to be a part of one of those, be a Zoom group right now. And then also this week, I just wanted to let you know, I'm going to be sending out an email sometime this week, probably in the later part, and a video kind of mapping out and laying out what our plans are moving forward with the COVID-19. A lot of people have been asking us when we're returning and all that stuff. How are we going to do things? I'm going to send out a message and an email that will detail all that so that you can kind of know and make plans. And so, once again, we're so excited that you chose to worship with us today. We love you. Man, thank you for your faithfulness. And once again, if you know or someone that needs help, please let us know at help@epiclifenb.com. We love you guys. Have a great week. Talk to you soon.
What's going on, Epic Life family? Pastor Brent here. We are so glad you have chosen to worship with us today. If this is your first time worshiping,
Hey, Epic family, Robin Weimer here, your lead worship pastor. And man, what I want to do is I want to make you aware of 2 ways that you can stay connected in this time through worship. So every Monday and Thursday at 12:30, we're going to be having a live time of prayer and worship on Facebook Live. So we really want to encourage you, man, join me for that. We get to pray together, we get to worship together, and we get to have a lot of connection and just interaction. It's a lot of fun. Also, on Wednesdays, we are posting a Worship Wednesday video. It's where I just give a short devotional and play a song, and man, it just gives you some encouragement for the day and fixes your eyes on Jesus. Man, our hope through this and our prayer is that you would experience God's presence through these things, and that also you'd be able to express your love to Him. And then ultimately, we invite you to share these things on your platform so we can expand the kingdom of God and spread the message of hope. Join us. We love you guys. We'll see you soon. Hey, Epic family, Robin Weimer here, your lead worship pastor. And man, what I want to do is I want to make you aware of 2 ways that you can stay connected in this time through worship. So every Monday and Thursday at 12:30, we're going to be having a live time of prayer and worship on Facebook Live. So we really want to encourage you, man, join me for that. We get to pray together, we get to worship together, and we get to have a lot of connection and just interaction. It's a lot of fun. Also, on Wednesdays, we are posting a Worship Wednesday video. It's where I just give a short devotional and play a song, and man, it just gives you some encouragement for the day and fixes your eyes on Jesus. Man, our hope through this and our prayer is that you would experience God's presence through these things, and that also you'd be able to express your love to Him.